Conversations with Iris. Here's your host, my loving wife, Iris.
Hola, mi gente bonita. Hello, beautiful people, beautiful souls, beautiful individuals. Welcome back to another Conversations with Iris, myself, the little podcast that could, and the space where powerful stories keep happening, more meaningful conversations take place, and we just inspire each other. We just keep coming week after week. Fridays are fun days because that's how we make things happen and continue to drop all these wonderful episodes. And to everyone listening around the world, thank you so much for downloading, sharing, and supporting the show. I truly appreciate every single one of you going in there and hitting download to continue to grow this beautiful community that we are just growing, and we keep getting better and better. I'm telling you guys, I'm just getting started and I have so much more to offer. So I'm super excited for these wonderful conversations. And let me tell you guys something about today's episode. This one's going to be a really fascinating one because we're going to be talking about awakening, consciousness, manifestation, and the idea that we may have more power in creating our reality than what we really realize. So get comfortable, open your mind, and let's dive into today's conversation because I know you're going to love this. It is amazing. Today, I'm going to have a pleasure of speaking to a wonderful lady who is a soul guide, a multidimensional channel. She's a galactic shaman and a metaphysical educator who is devoted to helping others unlock their multidimensional potential and helping them expand their consciousness. She's the founder of the Source Language Institute and the author of Amazon's #1 new release, Mastering Quantum Creation, Awaken the Phoenix Within, Manifest Your Reality, and Reclaim Your Cosmic Power. What I love about our guest today is that she blends that quantum teaching style and those shamanic practices, sound healing. Oh, I love sound healing, and what she calls source light language to help many people out there, many people like you and I, just help us reconnect with our higher selves and co-create with what she describes as the quantum field. And she also hosts her own podcast, which is called Soul Communication. How beautiful is that? So today we're going to be exploring her journey, what quantum creation is, and what does it really mean, and how people can reconnect with their own sense of power. So without further ado, bienvenidos to Conversations with Iris, MaAra Divine. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Iris. What a beautiful introduction.
Oh, I'm so glad to have you here. You just have such a beautiful voice, and I could just tell this is going to be a great conversation.
Yes, I'm really excited to be here. And let's just dive in. Anything you want to
Yeah,
ask me?
absolutely. So I definitely want to start out with an icebreaker, something fun, something light. Let me ask you, if you could describe your personal spiritual awakening today, what is that like? What is it like for you right now? How does that awakening spiritually feeling for you today?
Oh, wow. Today specifically, I don't know. I feel this excitement about surrendering to an unknown. I know for those who listen, they'll be like, what do you mean unknown? Right? It's a scary thing. And for me, actually, I've been unpeeling. I really see awakening as like having an onion, right? And you know how sometimes we have to take off those layers and we cry
Yes.
and we chop in layers and layers. And eventually we get to this place where we tap into the essence of who we are, the beauty, the love, the light, the lightness of beingness. And that's really kind of where I'm sitting. I'm sitting in this what I call 0 point field. I'm sitting in this place of where I'm just starting to really finally feel the I amness, what I am, like the totality of me, and okay with not knowing what is next. And that is very peaceful, beautiful place. Sometimes, of course, the human mind tends to, you know, go crazy, and like the monkey mind was like, but what this, what about that, wants to control. And that's our ego mind that always wants to preserve, right? That's that mind from the cave days that we had, the primordial reptilian mind, the ego that is all about survival. But if we step outside of that and we realize that fear is not real, danger is. So if there's a lion running around, when we back in the cave days, imagine that there was a lions and tigers, and we had a certain path we would take every day and would collect some berries. And then one day the berries dried out. And so, that mind was really freaking out because it's like, whoa, there's a tiger or a lion, and I know this path only. So sameness equals safety, right? But now I have to step into new territory and it's dangerous. But we don't live in the jungles, right? We
No.
live maybe right. We live in a concrete jungle. It's a different type of jungle that disconnects us. Um, and in this jungle, some of us are hustling, but ultimately, if we come to that place of, connecting to our other parts, which are, the prefrontal cortex, the other parts of the brain that got developed through evolution, and come to that place of, love and peace, and just taking that deep breath and just sigh it out.
Mhm. Yeah, just
It
like letting
is,
it all out, right?
yeah, just it's gonna be okay. No matter what kind of shit is happening in your day, it is okay. Just let it go. It's not serving you any longer. It is okay. And when you come to that place of not worrying anymore, it is really beautiful, liberating place.
Oh my God, that was so beautifully said. I love the detailed explanation. And I love how you talk about awakening like in representation of an onion, because you have to peel all those layers apart. And that is so true. Sometimes we have to do that to be able to like feel awake, take it all in and breathe out, just let it all go. So I'm glad to hear that. I could already tell this is going to be good. So, Deanna, I definitely want to take the opportunity and just talk about you, because I feel like every spiritual teacher or guide has their moment, right? That really just changed the life, their direction. So,
Mm.
who are you today and what made you study deep within people's minds, the quantum teaching, and all the good things that you teach?
Mhm.
How did you get there?
Oh, great question. I think it was a journey for sure. I wasn't born in the United States. I actually was born in Soviet Union of the time, in Belarus in Minsk. And I think since I was a little girl, I was kind of an old soul. I was always watching people and curious about people. But I also lived in such a very different environment. I was, a very communistic regime in some ways. And when I was 10 years old, we moved to Israel, and it was a different environment. It was more liberating. We lived in very agricultural type of, open
Oh,
environment next to Nazareth, where, you hear about Jesus and all the miracle stories. I was just living there. I didn't even realize the the importance of it to that extent.
beautiful.
And it was really beautiful. And but then just what is happening today in the world, I did experience war. So when we moved a year or so later, the Gulf War started. This is 1991. And so here I am in sixth grade and carrying gas mask to school and doing all the drills. And in the middle of the night, my parents, my sister will have to clamor in our room because they were afraid of biological weapons and put these gas masks on. And somewhere, in the middle of the night, like as I was sitting there, something was, unraveling within me as a child where I was no longer afraid of darkness. I realized actually in those moments of darkness, that brought my family together. There was something really beautiful about that. And that really what matters. And then, when I was 14 years old, there was just a bunch of these events. But this one, I would say, is the one that really made that mark. And so here in April 1994, right? So think about we in April now, long time ago, way before, we had computers. I mean, we had computers, but not really, no cell phones, right? A different
Me
type
too.
of environment
No Facebook.
altogether. No Facebook yet. Yeah, none of that. Maybe AOL. I can't remember if AOL was around yet.
I think so.
But but anyway, here I am on a bus stop with my childhood friend, and we skipped class. And it's a very busy bus hub, and many buses come in and out. And in Israel, the borders are so very close. It's like I'm in New Jersey, right? It's kind of considered small state, but there too is like half an hour away. The border is right there. And so you kind of go through your day, and beautiful day, and we're just standing there. And all of a sudden I hear this voice, and the voice is telling me, you got to go. I'm like, what? What do you mean I have to go? It's like, you got to go. And it got louder and louder. It basically was forcing me to leave the area, cross the street. And I was fighting this voice, but eventually I succumbed to it. I grabbed my friend, and we turned around the corner, and we heard boom. And my first instinct was like, did a part of a plane just crash? Like, what just happened? So the town I lived in was called Afula, and 1994 is the first bus bombing that happened in my town, and that was that bus stop. And so, of course, it took like a whole day to try to even get home, but it was 7 people who were on that bus stop didn't make it on the bus itself that was standing there. And so that started a whole series of questioning for me. What was that voice, right? How did it know?
Yeah,
Why me? Like, what is
you just
beyond
felt it. Yeah.
the seen and unseen? You know, all those people that, somehow were taken, but I was saved, and all those, and listening to that voice too, right? And so that took me on a whole quest, and that has been over 30 years of questing and more that took me to explore energy, vibration, unseen worlds, plant medicines, experimenting, I would say, a lot with different modalities, and becoming different type of teachers, from yoga teacher to shamanic teacher. And so I think where I am today, I'm just blending it all the tools that I collected along the ways, and all the relations, but also I've opened up so much more, like the abilities that I didn't know I had. And I would say this is one of the key messages I want to leave your audience with. Just
Yes.
because you think a psyche, someone who is born with that, it's not true. um, we all have these incredible intuitive gifts and quantum gifts, as I call them. We are actually much more than we can perceive. And when we allow ourselves, we can hear that voice. We can get information. We can go beyond to the other side. We can be a medium. We can be a galactic shaman. We can be all of that. And so for me, it's just been journey of unpeeling the onion and understanding that I am all of that and more. And really, I'm a creative being within this universal structure, but I'm also very, very ancient soul. So in process of it, we remember my past lives, we remember in galactic history, a lot of things that in the movies, that now I can see, in other people's what's called Akashic records. It's these like soul records that everyone has. So, there's much more to this life. It's pieces of the puzzle that are all coming together. And so I'm very grateful. It's been incredible journey. And in the process of the journey, I also traveled a lot. I've been to over 50 countries. I wanted to see the world. And now the land and these really special places in the world call me, because Earth is also alive. She's breathing, biological being just like us. And as our shifts and our awakening happening, so is hers. And so sometimes we have to work with her as well in these certain places around the world. So it's been really incredible co-creative experience for me. And yeah, now that I'm fully stepped into it, I trust me, and I think that's a lot of the process we have to do. Unpeel the onion, give ourselves the permission slip to be kids again. You remember
Yeah.
yourself when you were 2-year old? You were just playing, right? You didn't ask what is right, what is wrong. You had maybe imaginary friends, maybe not. You just allowed yourself to play. And
Yeah.
that
Nothing
is real.
matters.
Yeah, exactly. And that's really the key. We got too serious, seriously.
Yeah,
And
we
how do
did.
we tap back into that joy, that creativity, that play? Yeah.
Mm, and that's beautiful. I just have to applaud you for visiting over 50 different countries. That is amazing. I want to ask you here on a sidebar, what has been one of the most beautiful countries that, that you would never thought that you would have fell in love with?
Mm, yeah, I think for me, New Zealand and Iceland, they actually very similar. And I almost can like draw a line between them. And of course, I love everywhere I go. I've been to South America, Central America, and lived in some places for a bit. I really explored. I made it to Australia, obviously New Zealand. Um, there's something really special about those places because they're so remote and so far out, right? Iceland is closer to the North Pole, and New Zealand to, Antarctica, but because they're an island and so isolated, there's like purity of energy there. It's just so quiet. I
Like
actually
peace,
was in
right?
Iceland. Yeah, very peaceful. And like I was in Iceland 2023 in June. So it's during the summer, and they have what's called like white nights, meaning the sun never really sets. So it's 11 o'clock at night and the sun is still out. It's still light out.
Oh,
So they have to
wow.
put curtains, to close, with the shade and stuff for you to sleep. And it was just like, I remember like 11 o'clock at night being out there with my friend and we throwing some hack, we just playing some of these Icelandic games, like the old Viking games
Oh.
with the axes. I don't know. We were at some restaurant that was fun. And I was just like standing there, and there was just beautiful mountains, all green. And it was just so quiet. And I was like, wow, you know, that level of quietness is so precious. And yeah, it's just very magical places. Iceland, for instance, they have what they call 50 hidden people. So they still
Mm.
really believe in the fairies and the elves and all of that. More the older generation, but the more rural places you go to, they honor. Like they wouldn't build a road because they know there's like a stone and elves live there. It's
Oh,
incredible.
wow.
And they
Oh
have
my god.
sightings. If you Google it, they have like a special, yeah, they have like university that teaches you about these different creatures, and even a map. You can like see all
Wow.
these um yeah, incidents where people
Relatable.
had experiences. It's really, really great. That's what I loved about it. Like people are still very connected in one way or another. And definitely the older generation. And the more you go into the city, I guess everyone just gets so distracted and so busy, with the noise. We have the noise from the phone, from the TV, from the news, from 5G towers, all that electronic, energetic noise. And when you go into nature and fully immerse yourself in nature, you really start seeing it and you really start connecting. And so there's some national parks in Iceland that were just like these petrified stones that start speaking to you, these dragons, all of that really magical.
Oh, wow. It kinda gives me, like, Lord of the Ring vibes. I've always wondered, like I
Totally.
know that's
I
weird.
actually was at a place in New Zealand and we stayed there because it was raining. And for a few days, we were at this farm, and it's exactly where The Lord of the Rings was shot. And then we went to that whole area where, yeah, it was like by the water, totally scenes from the movie. Watched all the trilogies while we were there.
Wow, that is
Super
amazing.
beautiful, super beautiful. I'm very untouched, and they have still like the glaciers, in Iceland as well. The glaciers are so ancient. I mean, they've been here for over 1,000 years. So the glacier is very much alive. They all melt in too. So, but water, water preserves a lot of the memory, a lot of the history. And if you start connecting to like the energy of the glacier, it starts speaking to you. So these places are still very untouched, and I think that's why I love them so much because they're still very pure.
And thank you so much for sharing that because I actually had spoken to a previous guest who went to Iceland and she said the same thing. Like, I'm not kidding. She's like, it is so beautiful, definitely on my bucket list. I am a girl that, for my listeners who didn't know this nerdy side of me, I love books with fairies and A Court of Thorns and all those type of books that I love. And that's
Yeah,
my
and
type of
fairies are
alley.
very present in Iceland for sure. They even have, if you ever make it to Iceland, they have even like they call it like fairy town. It was
Oh,
one of the
wow.
first we went to Blue Lagoons, beautiful thermal waters they have in Iceland, like, the springs are another level there. And then we went to this little park where this capital of the fairies and elves. And since I'm a channeler and my friends who were with me were channelers too, we were channeling those energies. We could feel them everywhere. We brought some offerings because they love shiny stuff. And so, yeah, the fairies were
Interesting.
a lot of fun. Yeah, in Iceland.
And I definitely want to go back to something that you said about how, we like get too involved when you hear the word psychic, like, but there's
Mhm.
so different aspects of it, a psychic, a medium, a clairvoyant. There's a thing out there called a witch.
Mhm.
And for those that are listening, a lot of my listeners have been with me from day one, and I typically do like psychological thrillers. I'm a horror seeker. I love scary things, but I always kid around with my friends and I say, I think I'm a little witch. I'll tell you why, because I do have dreams and they do come alive, like they do happen. It's so weird.
Mhm.
So I had somebody tell me, like, that's clairvoyant abilities. When you dream about somebody that has passed away to the great beyond, or when you talk about, when you have a dream and that it happens, and it's just like I just had a dream with a friend that was in my dream and then boom, she reached out to me out of nowhere. I was like, "Oh my god, you're not going to believe this. I had a dream that we were talking and you were going to reach out." you know? So, I want to talk into that because you mentioned that, everybody has that ability within. For someone like me, people say you're a clairvoyant, you're like a little witch in disguise. What are your thoughts on that? Like that minutia that gets lost in the game when people think that, oh, you're a weirdo, but we're not.
Well, if we go back to the ancient civilizations, right, into Atlantis, Lemuria, ancient Egypt, this was something that was studied in mystery schools. This is something that was openly nourished since a child was born into life, because these were gifts that were coming usually with a soul. Because what is a soul? A soul is a light being, and soul has also had different incarnations on earth and off earth in different other star systems. And that's what I often do with people. I actually do a reading for them and I show them how they had different incarnations in different star systems and different qualities and gifts and strengths and weaknesses. And so, someone might be clairvoyant, some in there that's their strength, and someone else is better in like maybe putting their hands on and doing like energy healing, and it's like naturally happening for them. Someone is singing, someone is more artistic. All of those are soul expressions because each soul signature has its own, variation. And so from yeah, these labels, they're very interesting because, this is something, that happened during dark ages. What was a witch? A witch was usually a herbalist. As someone, I was a witch, almost burned at the stake. No, actually, I was burned at the stake. One lifetime I wasn't, but in one I was. And I was a herbalist working somewhere in Eastern Europe in the forest, making tinctures and helping people, doing what I always do in all the lifetimes, where I'm always in service with, for others, helping others, healing others, helping them to remember who they are. But during that time of descent from the ancient times till now, even if you think about like in the 70s, 80s, like if you were to talk about these things on the podcast, mind you, we didn't have podcasts, you would put in a loony because,
I know.
it was not acceptable. It was not acceptable. And of course, like in, 17th, 16th, 15th century, they needed an scapegoat, like they needed to blame someone because they didn't understand how this miracle could potentially happen. Like how I'm drinking this tincture and I'm much better and someone else gets sick. Basic things so that today we can explain with science. But yes, they came up with labels like a witch, or there was also, it was the church. The church demonized a lot of this activity. Of course, those who more connected to nature, the pagans, the druids, they knew all of this. They were connected to the fairies, right? The druid order, but they were all eradicated by the church, by the Templars, by the Crusaders. So the knowledge got lost. That's what happened, Iris. And if you look at the ancient history, it was the women. The women were the ones the priestesses that were holding a lot of that wisdom, the divine feminine collective. And over this last 12,000 years, the women were suppressed for a reason, because we held all that ancient knowledge and wisdom. And now we remember it. We stepping back into all of it. Like I remember now my ancient Atlantean lives in ancient Egypt. I can tell you the work that I was doing under the temples and the pyramids, all of the things that we're slowly starting to hear, right? And we read
Yeah.
in history books. I don't need to read a history book because actually history book might not even cover most of the stuff that I know because of my own experiences,
Yeah.
my own shamanic journeys, right? I close my eyes and then they're like, okay, go somewhere. And then my spirit takes me to the Sphinx. And then I go under the left paw of the Sphinx into these hallways and I'm having these experiences. And then guess what happens? About less than a year ago, they had all this LiDAR technology, these cameras, right, that scanned the pyramids and all of that. And they found that they actually these massive hallways that under the pyramids. Finally, we're getting some evidence, but I
I
did
know.
not need that evidence. so, so this is where we are. And the question is like, should we care, right? And those of us who stepping into this acceptance of self, acceptance of who you are, fully start to love yourself unconditionally. And that's really what matters. It's your heart. Because if you're too much in your mind and you worry too much about others and looking for external validation, you'll always be distracted. But if you close your eyes, you breathe into your heart and you tune to your heart, you really start listening to your soul. You really start listening to the truth of who you are. Whether you remember those past lives or not, you can have someone like me look at that and help you go there, maybe through hypnosis as well. It is about really integrating that all, and it's about inward process, inward journey to self, not external. And that's what I saw during COVID. It was really beautiful because, I've been on this journey for a long time
Yeah.
and watching everyone go indoors, forced in, and then first uncomfortable being alone and all of that, but eventually we're forced to close their eyes and go inwards. And I'm seeing so many channelers that woke up in the last 5 years since that, 5, 6, right? And because they didn't know they were channelers,
That is
they
so
didn't know there
amazing.
was psychics, but it all opened up.
Mm, mm-mm. And that's so interesting to me, and especially like you mentioned of living past lives and, looking at that for some individuals that, may be interested on that. I definitely want to talk about something because, you heavily emphasize this on your website and on your research. I want to talk about Scorpion years and mastering the quantum creation. I want to talk about the two because you mentioned Scorpion years, a time of ego death transformation, and you
Yeah.
talked about the Phoenix rising experience. I definitely want to look into that, but what makes that different than the mastering the quantum creation? Because that's a very powerful phrase, and it's an everyday language. And how can someone begin to understand the role in shaping their reality?
Oh wow! So you, there's like two different topics, but I'll start with the scorpion. So in shamanic traditions and many Native American traditions, they talk about stages of transformation, and there are these three fundamental stages. The scorpion, as you know, is usually kind of like dwells more in the darker, swampy areas or like dry land. So for me, it's like that death, the death that I experienced in Israel, right? All of the faces and shadows of that. And so as you sometimes, go through life and you experience a dark moment, but then ultimately you start seeing kind of the light at the end of the tunnel, and you move out of that into the face of the eagle. Where an eagle is that bird that kind of flies up high in the mountains and has the higher perspective. So you come out of that, that story, the victim story of dark story, and you start seeing the perspective, and you start like, what is the lesson here? What do I need to learn? And ultimately the phoenix, those who are familiar with the phoenix, I work with the energy of the phoenix as one of my power animals, is that bird that goes into the fire and does full resurrection, full transformation, where it needs to burn those layers, right, of the onion, those traumas, those burdens, those pieces of darkness, to transform and be a most resilient and strong version of itself. And so we are constantly in this process of resurrection, birthing new version of ourselves. I mean, think of yourself, Iris. Like even 10 years ago, is Iris today the same Iris that was 10 years ago? No,
Oh,
she learned
definitely.
so
Definitely.
much. Now she has her own podcast. She's doing so many
Yes,
things,
thriving.
right? And so there's like, if you start looking at your life in these moments of, the phoenix, where you had to go through a difficult situation and you came through it, you came out of the tunnel and you learned so much from it. That was the moment of phoenixing. And new versions get created. Where the manifestation happens, and how I work in the quantum field as this field of information that is all around us, seen and unseen, is that you can in my book I talk about different formulas you can use for manifestation or creation, because we really create beings. We create our reality because we can create that new version of ourselves, or we can attract and merge with a future version of ourselves that already has what we want to create. Because in the field of quantum, there's a field of probabilities and potentialities. Everything is there. So you just need to match to it, and there's a certain way to do that. You have to co-create with the universe, and certain steps that we have to take, like we have to put certain intention and attention to it. We have to be in a certain emotional state, but it is all possible because these versions are already there, and we constantly change and we constantly transforming. So Awaken the Phoenix for me is like, knowing that we are these beautiful, resilient versions and connecting to that frequency, right? Being comfortable in resurrecting yourself into that next version you're ready for, because it's the process of becoming. It's not what you are today. It's the process of becoming what you yet to be, but you already are.
That's beautiful. Process of becoming. And let me ask you this, and this is just me out of curiosity, because sometimes I feel like people hear these concepts and they think they're beautiful, because they are. They really are beautiful,
Mhm.
but also wonder where to begin. If someone listening right now today that wants to start becoming more intentional with their life, I mean, what are one of those two simple practices they could start doing right now to just help them reconnect with their inner power or their intuition? What would you say?
I think it comes down to practice in every day. So practice promotes presence. So you have to, I think, starting your day on a positive note is really important, or setting intentions. So you can, let's say, wake up one day and kind of feeling groggy, and you can go on with your day feeling groggy. And guess what? Your whole day is going to be like that, because that's what you vibrationally match. Or you wake up in that state and you're like, okay, no, I choose, because it's all about choices, right? We create our realities through choices. I choose to shift out of this state. So I'm going to wake up, I'm going to have my coffee, I'm going to work out maybe a little bit, do some breath work, or take a deep breath, give myself 5 minutes to recalibrate, to go into joy, maybe do a little dance, maybe sing a little song, whatever it takes, right? To shift
Yeah.
yourself into more positive state. And then set some intentions like, I'm going to have an amazing day today. Today, I'm going to meet, this person that's going to give me what I need. Today's miracles are going to happen. So you put into the field this miraculous frequency and allowing yourself to kind of flow through the day. So instead of maybe taking the usual road that you do, maybe take the more scenic route. Notice little things that maybe you were not paying attention to, because it is about paying attention to the in-between states, the little, what they call quantum gaps. That's how we increase our awareness. It's about increasing our perspective. Remember, being that eagle. And through that, things start going to change for you, because now you're like, okay, I'm not just, mindless player in the game. Now I'm a conscious player. Now I can see what is really happening. It's like in Truman Show, right? He was like going about his day until he was like, oh, wait a second. And Jim Carrey played that really well. There's
Yes.
so much more to hear than what I realize. And now I get to change it. And now this is my own game. I can make this game happen for me. So how do I play this game in the way that, I'm enjoying it too? And when you realize you a conscious player, no longer just like a robot in 9 to 5, that like starts shifting your reality so much. So yeah, so bring more awareness to your day, but start in the morning by having that practice of setting intention, maybe 5 minutes closing your eyes, or like doing a few breaths, stretching, really allowing the flow of frequency to go through you, and you'll see it's amazing what happens. That little shift is going to make such a difference.
Oh, that's beautiful. I think I need to start doing that too, especially with my, my morning job there. Gotta, set the tones, get up positive and start dancing because I love dancing. Oh my goodness. This
And you,
conversation.
Iris, you'll see you're gonna come to work and smile and radiate your lightness of being, and everyone's gonna be, "What is she on?"
That's true.
But
That's
it's gonna
true.
rub off them. It's gonna rub off them. I go to a grocery store and I just smile and say hello and what's your name? And it's like that positivity, that light that we emit because we're light beings, it is so incredibly powerful, more than you can realize. And we can, and everyone we interact with, we literally entrain them to that frequency. So your coworkers, everyone around you, are going to start feeling it. They might not understand first, but eventually they'll catch up. It's a program. New program you're going to be running. Remember, it's all a game anyway.
It is. Yeah, I'm going to have to start doing that. And I'm definitely going to see those changes. Deanna, I just wanted to say that this conversation just has been really incredible. I love it. And as we transition to close, I mean, I love how it's thought provoking. And I really appreciate how you bring these deep ideas into ways that people can really just begin to trust and understand and really explore themselves, which is the key point here. But
Right.
before we wrap up, I always like to ask my guests one final thing, like just one question. What do you want every listener of this podcast to walk away today about their own power, their purpose, their potential? What would that quick, simple message be for them?
So I just opened a card for my Oracle deck, and the message is rewrite the pattern. You have access to your soul's records. Some contracts are ready to complete, others may evolve with your awareness. So I think the message here is, this is your time to notice the patterns that no longer serving you, and it's time to release them. Start building new programs, and yeah, some lessons, we hold on to, and some relationships, some things that we back to sameness, right? Back to the cave day, because
Yeah.
that feels good. But guess what? The only evolution of the soul that happens is through your awareness, and it's through your surrender. And allowing the unknown is to be a new territory for you to explore, to be curious, to be open. So I hope this was inspiring for you, and check out my book, my podcast, all the various ways you can come to my website. And I'm sure you're going to include all of that, Iris. And yeah, I would love to connect with you deeper.
Yeah, thank you so much for letting our listeners know where they can learn about you, your teachings. You mentioned your book, your work. I mean, you can find her book, Mastering Quantum Creation, explore her quantum ancient codes oracle deck, and connect with you through the Source Language Institute. Did I get that right?
No, the best way is just to come to actually my website, which is dianadivine.com, or spelled as dianadivine.com. And yeah, all the information's there. Or find me on Instagram or YouTube at Diana M, like in Mary, Diana M Divine. And I post a lot, and I have a lot of inspiring content that you can continue, digesting, and maybe, connect with me at some point as well. But this journey is an evolutionary journey. And the key is just to stay curious and be like a kid, exploring
Yeah.
and playing.
Oh, that's beautiful. And of course, you have your podcast out there you mentioned, Soul Communication, available in all major stream platforms. So make sure you check out Miss Deanna. She has a lot of great things out there. Thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your journey, your wisdom, and your perspective on consciousness and just personal transformation. This has been so, so wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Iris. Thank you, everyone.
Oh, thank you. And to my listeners, thank you again for tuning in with Conversations with Iris. As I mentioned, this is the little podcast that could. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure you share it with a friend, a mom, a sister, a brother, whatever. Somebody needs to hear this message. Remember, it's all about rewriting those patterns, getting up in a good mood. And don't forget to as well leave a review and continue to help this wonderful community to help it grow. Until next time, con mucho amor, this has been Conversations with Iris. Thank you all.